Karen. Welcome everyone to Data Collab Lab, episode 3 of this year. If you guys are joining us for the first time, you might notice that we all have these awesome backgrounds to kind of simulate all being in the same lab together, yet with our own little flair to distinguish ourselves. So in this virtual world, we're kind of working closely, even though we're actually across the pond from each other on this call. I'm joining you from San Diego, and I'm a solution architect here at Databricks. I'm really excited to talk about CI/CD with Databricks and just more general in this space. I know I started my career as a software engineer and was thrown right into the best practices of using Jenkins and making sure to get my builds passing every single time. So I learned CI/CD practices at a good level at the beginning of my career, but it's interesting as in data science world, we don't see that as much. So I'm really excited to see what Ivan and Micheal have to talk with us about with CI/CD. So how about you, Franco?
Thanks, Lee. Hey, everyone. My name is Franco Patano. I'm a solutions architect here with Databricks. I live in the Chicagoland area. My background is mostly data warehousing and BI. People don't normally think about CI/CD in that realm, but I tell you what, I have version controlled the database before, so I'm really excited to see what Ivan and Micheal have in store for us today. With that, nowadays on Databricks, I help customers figure out what this lakehouse thing is, and this is a vital component of that. So with that, I'll introduce Micheal. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm Micheal Shtelma, solutions architect with Databricks. So I'm from Germany, Frankfurt. Yeah, and from my background also coming from the software engineering, and after that moved more to the data warehouse space, and then to the ML. And maybe after that we can tell a couple of words about the project. So maybe let me.
Sorry.
Ivan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me? Just a quick chit chat. Sure. Okay, perfect. Good. So hi, everyone. My name is Ivan. I'm a solutions architect at Databricks, physically located in Berlin, virtually located in this nice room with everyone around me. Well, at least my imagination helps me to think this way. From the professional perspective, I have in total 5 years of experience building data science / data engineering solutions. And of course, at one step in time, the CI/CD requirements came into my life. And since then, I wouldn't say that I'm a biggest fan of CI/CD. I'm more thinking of this as a crucial point when you're trying to build reliable service. And especially if we speak about data engineering and ML engineering in general, this is definitely a very important thing. Yep, with that, I think that's my part of introduction done. Franco, shall we elaborate a bit more on the CI/CD topic?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how this started. So we know that we're pretty much solutions architects here. We know that we're in the field all day, every day, helping customers be successful on Databricks. But tell us a little bit about how this came to be. Like, what was the inception of this project?
Yeah. So we were as a solutions architect, we are speaking a lot to the clients, and with one of the clients, I was working back then. I think it was almost 2 years ago, actually, no, just a year ago now. A really good client in Austria, and they were asking a lot of questions about CI/CD, and they were not alone. They were interested how they can do the CI/CD with Databricks. And another small interesting part here, we are usually considered to be a notebook company. So we have our really great notebook environment, and data scientists usually love it. But nevertheless, there are a number of data engineers and also data science now trying to be starting to use software engineering practices more and more. So data scientists as well, or maybe especially ML engineers who are more kind of interested in developing everything with the IDE and following the software engineering practices, doing CI/CD, and doing the CI/CD for data projects, for the machine learning projects. And that client was exactly one of those who wanted to follow the software engineering practices. So back then, we have started to build something that will enable users easily to set up CI/CD pipelines for Databricks. Yeah, at first we have just created a really simple cookie cutter template and just a couple of small like Python files around it. And those guys are still using this old solution, which enables them just like to use GitHub Actions and to test everything they do on Databricks, and like even run the code from IDE directly on Databricks. And after that, Ivan has joined the project and actually implemented everything from scratch and implemented a great solution that is like really, really scalable and is way better than something that we had before. So Ivan, would you like to tell a couple of words about that?
Well, I must admit I'm flattered a bit with this characteristic, but nevertheless. So basically, I had experience working on Databricks as an end user, and I do remember that the CI/CD part in general needs a little bit of glue code. And I think I'm kind of understood the pattern, because working with different customers afterwards, I've seen that basically the pattern of CI/CD templating or CI/CD pipelining is more or less the same across different users, so to say. And I started thinking about how can I actually generalize it, because if the same people can use the same code, it actually starts to make sense to make this code available and basically do this in a more sustainable way, in a more reliable way, with tests and all of the things in place. And at that time, I was actually learning React. I know that this sounds a little bit strange because it's not directly related, but in fact, when I was learning React, I found probably the thing we're all missing in Python, this create React app. And it's actually a cool thing because you just have scaffolded the whole application in one command. And especially when you start doing a lot of new projects, as I do quite often, you're actually looking for something like this because you would like to have some kind of template project and generate other projects from this template. And with these two concepts in mind, with this influence of different ideas, I have found the CI/CD templates project. And then basically I have decoupled the components which are related to actually templating and components which are related to actually working with Databricks APIs to work via IDE, to deploy different packages in a sustainable way, and so on and so on. And this is how CI/CD templates were rebuilt by me, and the DBX project was born. That's like kind of a short prehistory of this.
That's awesome. I know, I'm sure we could all raise our hands if this has been the case, and many other solution architects around Databricks, that when you kind of like Michael is saying that notebooks are fine and all, and they're great to be used, but when you start to talk with data engineers who want to use their IDE, they turn around and they're like, well, how am I going to do that? So this is great. Let's jump in and see what we've created.
Okay, then basically, let me quickly share my screen because, as I've said, this is heavily influenced by Create React app, and I hopefully think you can see my screen, and the letters are pretty big. Yep. Okay, so I'm using Cookie Cutter, and I'm using the template which we have posted on Databricks Labs. It's an open repository. Everyone can repeat the instruction I'm doing here right now. So I'm starting this cookie cutter. I need to re-download to get the freshest cookie cutter. And then I need to generate the project name. I actually have already something here. It's called Collab Lab Demo. Collab Lab Demo. Sounds good. Let's bootstrap the first version, add some description. I'm too lazy to do this as of now. Author the same. We're going to demo this on AWS. We also have option for Azure, and we eventually will have also option for GCP. As a CI/CD tool, I prefer in this particular case for the demo purposes the GitHub Actions, but we also have integrations with DevOps, with Azure DevOps and GitLab. And yeah, this is just like some technical settings, and I need to provide A2 REST AWS profile for this. And with this, I have generated a new environment for my project with the whole scaffolded objects here. And the tree command is lagging a bit, but you can see the whole structure of this project. So with this, we basically,
So pause for 1 second. So this just created an entire project scaffold based off of what you provided with the AWS profile is what you chose. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
And what would be different if I wanted to do AWS or Azure or GCP? What bindings does that make?
You just need to choose another option in the
what is it like,
when you do the cookie cutter generation?
I guess my question is, what is it setting up behind the scenes? What's different there?
Basically, we are a little bit opinionated about, in general, about the project structure, and we are imposing like a couple of ideas of how the project should look like. So that's like one thing, right? We have here a Collab Lab demo, so it's a Python package, and that's like where you can develop the logic. And then we have a configuration with deployment.json, where we have the configuration of the jobs. And that's the place where we will have some. So by the way, the configuration that we have there, it will look exactly in the same way for all three clouds. But there are some small bits that will look a little bit different for different clouds. For example, you can have like instance profile for AWS, or you can have something Azure specific there as well. Or for example, you will have to specify machines that are compatible with Azure, or like machines that are node types compatible with AWS. So that's like the main difference, because we are a cloud agnostic platform. It's not that different.
It's just that the APIs to access different components on the cloud, it would be different. Every cloud is not the exact same. There are small differences in either the APIs or the cloud components, or how they reference different infrastructure under the covers. So you need to have different those layers, but structurally it's the same. It's the components on each cloud that need to be adapted.
Exactly. So basically, like here, for example, since I'm using AWS in this example, I have for example, the node type ID. And this node type ID, of course, will be different on different cloud platforms, just for the reason that machines are called in a different way. Right. So basically, as you can see, I actually have this project scaffolded, and we have jumped directly into the deployment.json file. And with this, I actually can simply perform dbx deploy command, and magic will start happening. So it picks up my data, my authentication token from Databricks CFG in the same way as a Databricks CLI does. I am deploying all dependent files like VHL file, entry point, configurations, all of these things to Databricks automatically. And then it creates two jobs out of it, because in this particular file, I have two jobs. First job is for like main run, and the second job is the integration testing run. And now if I will open my Databricks UI, I can actually see this job here. So as you can see, I've done some preparation, of course, like a repetition. So it's an old one. And here is the new job, which is located here. And as you can see, it automatically uses the versioned files from the deployment. So basically, if I click on it run now, it will run with exactly the suitable dependency with VHL file and all of these things. And at this particular moment, I think I can make a short stop because I need to adjust some security settings, not publicly. And after that, I can actually push this code, and Micheal will be able to see this code directly from the repos.
That's good. We can pause for a second. We got some questions from the field. So one of the questions is so what you've done here is similar to what be considered like archetypes in Maven if you were a Scala engineer.
Yes, that's true. That's completely correct. Or like in Scala, how this thing called seeds, as far as I remember, something like this. Yeah.
Very cool.
And then the question on what sort of integration tests you'd be planning to run. I mean, that's situational, right? Or it basically depends on which job and which project.
Yes, definitely. So we just give you the scaffolded integration test, which basically checks like count is bigger than 0. But of course, in fact, your production integration test should look a little bit more, sophisticated, just for the reason that this is your production tests. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
You're saying that just checking that count is greater than 0 isn't enough?
Yeah, I could not say that it's actually like well enough for a real production, but that's the point. It's an example. You decide on how this should look like in your environment. We just give you an example of how this could be done, and then you decide on how would you actually like to implement this. That's the main concept.
A couple more questions here. So I want to call out something real quick. This is a Databricks Labs project. Databricks Labs are projects that SAs, as we help customers figure things out, we might take the core of that idea and publish it in a labs repo on GitHub. And this isn't officially supported by Databricks support, but you usually work with your solutions architects or your resident solutions architects to help you through to manage it. Because really, like they said, these are wrappers around primitives that are available on Databricks, but it just helps accelerate things by stitching together all of these projects. So like Ivan put together our API, scaffolding for each cloud, along with cookie cutter, and these are like all of these things put together. So with that, their question got asked, is this repo public? And I didn't know if it's public on Databricks Labs or do you have to be invited?
It's already public.
It's public, so both components, the DBX CLI, which I'm using, we call this DBX because it's Databricks CLI extensions, and the CI/CD templates as well are public. So all these components are already open to other users, and you can use them straight away. And they actually have documentation, probably not the most sophisticated, or like not in the way how I would like to see the documentation, but at least it has some. So like it's a good starting point, so to say.
Yeah, that's great.
By the way, we have released the first, I think the first release we have done the last year. So it's already public since like more than half a year.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's actually not like a very fresh thing, which was not properly tested. We actually have users who are actively using it. And yeah, we're trying to answer the issues if there are any arise pretty fast. So yeah,
awesome.
That's how it
and
works.
When you're selecting when you're giving the profile for the job, someone noticed that you're creating a new jobs cluster. That I know in the API you can choose an all-purpose cluster, but if you put in scaffolding, if you want to choose an all-purpose cluster instead of creating a new cluster for jobs?
No, we generate a new cluster for the sake that this configuration is a little bit harder, in fact. So I was going through the flow that, basically very low about Databricks, and you would like to do this, and then you see all different settings which are possible to do. And then you go to the jobs API page and just find, okay, I can just provide existing cluster ID. That's fine. Yeah.
So did we buy you enough time to get to the next step, Ivan?
Yes, actually, we did. And I think I can quickly show what happened. Let me close all things which shall not be shown.
While you're doing that, I just want to call one thing out as he's bringing his screen up. Rax asks, I saw repos as an icon in the workspace. Is this the same thing? No, it's not the same thing. It's different. They asked when it will be available generally. Please reach out to your Databricks representative. That feature is in preview. We can't talk about it publicly, but if you reach out to us, we can talk to you about it privately. Please go on.
Yep. Yep, and basically, as you can see now, my whole project is here. It has all of the documentation, like README generated documentation. I have just uploaded into GitHub, and it has already triggered the first initial commit testing pipeline. And yeah, so basically it has deployed the integration testing job and even started running this job. And at this point in time, I think it makes sense to hand over to Micheal, who in this demo hates developing locally, and he prefers everything from repos. And I think he will be the great person who can show this bit.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Just give me a second.
While you're doing that, one more question, Ivan. If I have a Databricks config file and with multiple different profiles, can I specify which instance profile to use in that JSON?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. You can, so basically it works in this way. You have environment, and environment is linked to the profile, and you can have multiple environments. It could be the same, and actually you can even deploy across clouds if you would like to, so the same project. Yeah.
Cool.
So here you can see our repo. So with the code that Ivan has just. And now I'm going to check out this repo in Databricks, and yeah, I'd like to make a couple of changes. So let's create. So let's actually do the checkout. So let's clone it, and this will take, I think, a couple of seconds.
Recap this for the audience. Ivan just from his local his local machine created the project with DBX. He committed it to GitHub. And now Micheal is going to go in and pull that repo in Databricks. Go ahead.
Okay, so now we have our projects in Databricks, and here we can maybe at first take a look a little bit at the structure. So as I have mentioned before, we are predefining the structure in the template. So like here, you will have at first your Python package where you can develop all the logic, and we will have the configuration file or configuration folder where the configuration of the jobs can be done, and then we have like a couple of simple things like unit requirements where you can specify the requirements for your unit tests, and yeah, a couple of other things. So let's go inside, and as you can see within our projects, we have within our Python package, we have another package for jobs. And here we have our sample job. So let's take a look at this job. So this job is really simple. It does nothing else but just writes the range to the output location. So I would like to add here a couple of small things. So let's maybe just do the count. So let's calculate how many elements we have in our data frame. So let's do. Assign. I will just assign it to some variable, and then I will just print it. Okay, so after that, I think I would like to push my changes to the Git, and of course, we would like to have them tested. So let's push them, and let's see what's going to happen. So I will go to Git. And I also would like, so let's assume that my feature was quite big. So I would like also to create a feature branch. So let's call it account feature.
One of the most complex features we have ever seen.
Yeah. That's like this was a really hard one.
Well, I'm noticing that Ivan, you missed the big step of adding the count in your code the first time. So
exactly.
What
definitely.
going on?
That was something that shall not happen anywhere else. I'm sorry.
On the wrist. Always print statements in your code. I'm joking.
Oh yeah, like sorry for using print. I should have used Logger.
Whatever.
Confession, I still use print statements to debug.
Okay, it's feature, but yeah, maybe we can make another pull request to fix it. But yeah, look, we have now another branch, and we have already the job running. And this job is going to test our, exactly. So like we're going to test our great feature.
Michael, I think you're watching currently. Yeah, you need to create a pull request for this.
You're right. That's the old feature. So yeah, let's create a pull request. Okay, let's see. Let's create a pull request. Here we can see file. So those are the things that we have added. And yeah, I'm going just to review features, review it, and just approve.
Shall I make a review for you, Michael?
Okay. Wait, I cannot approve it. That's
I think that's because I can approve it, not you. I am the owner of it.
Okay, so then let me stop sharing.
Yeah.
Ivan, can you please review my really complicated feature?
Well, this probably will take some time. I'm not sure if I'm just really like to do this. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Well, let's say it. I won't even wait for the test to end. That type LGTM looks good to me. Comment it. Yeah, and basically, but actually, what I would like to do is wait for the testing check to finish, and yeah, so the integration test will take, I think, probably something like a couple of minutes. I don't think it makes sense actually to watch them to end. I think we can actually start answering questions related to this approach, or shall I just merge it in?
I have a question. Just the integration test. This is probably a pretty basic question, but someone else might have it. I'm used to running integration tests through like a Jenkins server. Is this a GitHub feature that you can run integration tests when you do the commit?
Yes. So basically, in this sense, GitHub Actions work as Jenkins in this particular case, because what Jenkins actually does in this sense is that basically GitHub Actions launching the set of tasks you have defined, and that's exactly what they do here.
And where in your scaffold project, the project that people would be able to use, is it defining those tests to go be executed? Is that in the requirement?
Okay, I see. So let me quickly show the generated scaffolded project once again. Yeah, so here it is. And basically, if I click into GitHub workflows on push, because this is the action which triggers it. So there are secrets stored in my in this GitHub repository. And then here is the set of steps. So basically, I'm using Python 7. Let me actually make it bigger so you can see it.
Wow, so this is just a GitHub feature that I haven't been aware of that you can do all of this.
Okay, then I just recommend you to take a look.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and basically these steps will be called here. So it will deploy the integration test job and launch the integration test job.
Awesome.
Yeah, and DBX launch will trace the job until its end, and if it fails with some error, then the whole pipeline will fail.
Cool.
Let me add a couple of things. Yeah, like one of the most interesting features is that actually we are running the integration tests on Databricks. So we are building the artifact on the GitHub mesh, or like within a GitHub Actions container, and after that deploying it to Databricks, and then running the whole thing on Databricks. Because we have like seen really often that customers are running all the tests within the CI tool environment, so maybe within like Jenkins container or GitHub Actions container, and that's kind of really hard because you don't have all the data there. So you can just run something really small, but you cannot run the like real integration test, because for that you need your maybe production data set, maybe like data set that looks like a production one. And that's something that you usually have on Databricks. And with the CI/CD templates and DBX, you can do exactly that. Easily run your integration tests on Databricks, so where your production jobs are running.
Excellent. We have a few questions. First off, it got asked about, I assume PAT means PAT tokens, but how to automate PAT tokens and Databricks clusters. I think this is a function of Databricks Connect, but do you want to talk about that? Or is it a function guide?
No, it's not a Databricks Connect function. So basically PAT tokens, I mean, what kind of automation around PAT tokens do you mean? You mean the generation step of them, or the, or what? I maybe just misunderstood the question. But basically what I do here is that I have generated CLI, I've generated token for my CLI, and I'm using it one for my local machine and one in my GitHub account, in my GitHub repository for this particular case. Does that make any sense?
So the REST API has the authentication and the header with it. Is that configurable inside of DBX to configure your token?
Yes, that is. Yes, that is.
I think that was the question. If that didn't answer it, please respond in the chat. I think the next question we want to ask, how are we doing on time, Karen? Doing good? We'll ask another question.
We're good, yeah.
All right. Another question comes to us. So will this work the same way if we're using, I saw the option, so I'm pretty sure it is, but is it if we're using Azure DevOps instead of GitHub Enterprise?
Definitely shall. We have tested the Azure DevOps pipeline, and actually this pipeline code, the Azure pipelines.yaml file, will be generated if you choose correct option during cookie cutter bootstrap.
I see. So what we were just looking at when I was asking you questions in that GitHub workflows directory that gets created, instead it would be creating the equivalent for Azure DevOps.
Exactly. Yes.
Cool.
Yes, you're right.
Or for GitLab as well. Like we have
or for
support
GitLab.
for the GitLab.
And actually we are open for contributions from other CI/CD tools. There are a lot of them, and it's open code. So feel free to add another tool to it. It's pretty simple, I must admit.
That's great.
Yeah, basically sorry.
Go ahead.
So basically to support the new CI tool, the only thing that must be done is just we need the YAML file corresponding to the special tool. And from this, in this YAML file, we should just like run DBX, which is like really, really easy.
So any other, we saw basically the flow that most people would run into with this of, okay, one user commits, and then I also want to be able to use the same project. But are there any other kind of CI/CD bells and whistles we want to talk about that this offers?
I would like to underline the following things when using this approach in general. So in my perspective, like there should be a separation line where you must or can use it, or where you probably shall not use this. I would say so. From my perspective, it's always based on the simplicity, and simplicity in your understanding, not in our understanding. So if I think that CI/CD templates is the best tool ever because I wrote it, it doesn't mean the same for you, most probably. And because of this, I personally, my opinion is the following. As an example, if I would like to have a very simple job scheduled, and I know that code of this job is not going to be changed very often, most probably I will just write a notebook and set it on schedule, because it literally can be done in 9 clicks in Databricks UI. I think so. However, if I have a bigger project where one pipeline ends in another pipeline, and then I need to configure them working all together, and some tests on top of it, integration with third-party system, all of these things. In this case, because the code base becomes much bigger, I probably would like to use it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just again, underlining the fact that notebooks by default, you get revision history.
Yes,
and you could, you know, you have a couple stories around, you know, GitHub integration with Databricks as we're making it a little bit more
exactly
here, you know, in the repos that we talked about, that's really getting pushed out. And you saw that too. But this is definitely a good answer for someone who wants to bake it into their more, in-depth data engineering process.
Yep.
Cool.
Micheal, maybe you have something to add on this, like from your experience perspective, or?
Yeah, like as you have mentioned, basically, if you would like to follow the software engineering practices, if you would like, let's say, if the development team is more comfortable with IDE, then it's definitely a nice solution for developing with your favorite IDE and running all the code on Databricks. And I have developed a couple of projects using this approach with PyCharm. It's really easy just to write something, then write the dbx command, which you can just can create a runtime configuration, or you can just add the make, and within the make add the make command for all the pipelines, and then just run something like make run my pipeline, and then you just get in your console, you get the results. So that's really easy. And additionally, you get the support for the CI/CD and integration tests, which is also really nice. So I think if you would like to develop with the IDE, that is the solution for you. And if you're more comfortable with notebooks, then the projects API and the repos are going to be the best solution.
And you guys have had success with customers implementing this, correct?
Yeah, we have a number of customers who are already using it in different parts of the world. So a couple of in US, a couple of in Europe. And yeah, like they are using the solution, and they're really happy with it because it allows their teams just to concentrate on development, and they don't have to invest into own tools for like running and packaging the code, their Python code, and then like deploying it to Databricks, which is, it's easy to do, but nevertheless you have to develop the script that will like package it, maybe put it to DBFS, and then create the jobs via the jobs API, and then run it. So that's it's not complicated, but it's just takes time.
Yep.
Got a question.
Sorry, Franco, you go first.
Oh, okay. We got a question. I think it's important to call this out. So Richard asks, we can write Databricks notebooks directly in IDE without using the web UI. And that's exactly what we were showing here today. Ivan was logged in via VS Code. He created the project via command line using the DBX cookie cutter function. And you can, do you want to talk about that? You can develop the entire thing locally and then push the project to run on the Databricks clusters in the cloud. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this is an important thing to understand. This is file-based development. This is not notebook-based development in this sense. So basically, we can enable this thing as well, but the point is that like kind of in this perspective, it makes no sense to use it in this way. Let me explain. So if you prefer to develop in notebooks, then just develop in notebooks. I mean, we do not force you to do this. What you can do on DBX side is that you can just mention that this notebook is inside this particular job. Deploy it, don't forget about it. However, there is no way to develop Databricks notebooks, especially if you would like to have notebooks and directly in your IDE. It's just like not possible, simply. Yeah. So this just a little bit different things.
And one question around various IDEs that are supported. Let's reiterate too that this is not dependent on DB Connect, which you could
No.
That's a separate topic. You can integrate DB Connect with the majority of IDEs. The current IDE in question is IntelliJ. And so I just want, you all can answer this, but it's the fact that it really just rests on the only dependency is DBX CLI and then the configuration to get to your Databricks cluster. That's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So let me add here a couple of things. So the thing is that when we run it via DBX, you're not running anything locally. So what DBX does is it packages the Python package, adds the additional configuration, deploys it to Databricks, and then runs it on Databricks. So the code will always be running on the Databricks cluster. And this means that you can access any resources you have there. For example, you can use GPUs, you can use the data stored in DBFS, and you can, of course, the Spark jobs will run on the whole cluster, but also the simple Python things will be also running on Databricks. Because like with DB Connect, it's not working in this way. It's just a little bit different technology. So with DBX and CI/CD templates, you can run everything in Databricks, not just the Spark code.
Awesome. Well, I guess as we're approaching the end of our session, I do want to make sure we plug the fact that you guys already did a great deep dive on this tool a couple months ago at a Spark session, Spark Summit. And so if anyone wants to not only look at this recording afterwards, but go back and look at that, I know you guys dive in even more to implementing this. So we can make sure to follow up with that link as well.
Yeah, I'll make sure in the YouTube recording, I'll drop the link to the summit session too, so y'all can check it out.
Go ahead, Franco.
No, please.
Oh, I was just saying, other than that, of course, reach out to us as always and look for our next collab lab.
Yeah, if your question didn't get answered, or if you have other questions, please feel free. Reach out to your Databricks SA or a Databricks representative, and then we'll work with you to figure out whatever problems that you have. And if you have ideas for future Data Collab Lab episodes, I know that there are questions that don't really pertain to what's going on in this episode, but if you have ideas of things that you want us to talk about and show you how these things are done on Databricks, you know, either locally developed or in the cloud with notebooks, if you have data engineering, data science, data analytics questions, please feel free to email us at datacolablab@databricks.com. And we could definitely help structure a future episode where we cover those topics directly.
Absolutely. And we'd love you to be a guest on there as well.
Awesome. Well, sorry, go ahead,
I
Ivan.
just wanted to be, I just wanted to, not sure if it's the right timing, but I just wanted to say that I'm really thankful for you guys to organizing this, because I guess it's a hard labor to align all of the links and so on and so on. It was a pleasure to participate.
We appreciate it. Thanks for coming to the lab.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for organizing. That was a really great opportunity for us to talk about the DBX and CI/CD templates.
Yeah, thank you so much, Micheal and Ivan and Lee and Franco for hosting. I think, you know, again, just following up with any questions, anybody who's watching, feel free to ping us on LinkedIn or other social places. We're happy to answer your questions. And so with that, thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope you have a good rest of your day and check out our meetup page for future sessions. All right, take care, everyone.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.